Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on Thursday night after the Taraweeh Salat at Darul Ma'arif al-Islamiyya in Kareli, Alahbadi, UP, India, Thursday, the 8th of Ramadan 1444, corresponding with the English date 30th of March 2023. Hazrat Wala is saying that i'tikaf is even for one moment, but the importance of it is this year, and it all boils down to this point that you need to make the niyat. Muhammadun basharun la kal bashari bal huwa yaqutun bainal hajari. Muhammad is a human, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but not just like any other human. Rather, he is a gem, he is a pearl, he is an expensive stone amongst pebbles that are lying on the side of the road. So this Buzruk read it in his Majlis, and he was inspired by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that him and whoever was in that Majlis were forgiven. After that, he made it his practice that in every gathering he would recite these couplets in the praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Maulana Mohammad Ahmad Saheb used to say that you people come and go, but at least make niyat that on a bare minimum of at least one thing I will make amal on. You must be attending many gatherings and majlis. So, if you learn one thing, or you can make amal on one thing in every majlis, then in a short span of time you would make such type of progress. So, the wa'az and the nasihat, the admonition, Allah is the wa'iz, Allah is speaking. Sayyidina Rifai rahimahullah, his wa'az was this, that the Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, this is their seat and this is their chair. You are not the original, rather you are standing by there just as a substitute, as an inheritor. The original and the genuine and the essence is the Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam, rather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Therefore, har ke bajay nishast wa marduma mutawajjah, every such person who sits on that seat and the masses then turn their attention to him, then he should remember that this chair and the seat is not his. Rather, he should echo the sentiments or convey the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and if not, move from that place. So think properly and then sit down and speak and give wa'az. It was the Jama Masjid in Basra. Ali radiallahu ta'ala an enters and he finds people sitting on chairs in the majlis giving wa'az and nasihat. And then he goes on saying to them, who gave you people permission? He summoned them and he started taking the interview and the imtihan. Amongst them was Hassan al-Basri. Hazrat Wala is speaking about Islahul Muslimin. There was a jalsa here, and Hazrat Maulana Habibur Rahman Azmi spoke for 2 or 3 minutes. The crux of it was this year, that don't confuse and mix up the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Be sure about it. Rather, at least the last narrator, quote his name. And this year, what is becoming common is because those who are speaking are not cautious of what they are saying. They are not sure of the hadith that they are relating. This year is a great responsibility. Allah Ta'ala in the most correct way give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of making correct tarjumani. So the same warning that was sounded regarding a person who speaks and gives information wrongly about nasab and genealogy, ancestry, that this is where I come from and this is who I am. there is a warning regarding against that person. Similarly, the person who does not say the correct hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is also a warning against such a person. So Ali radiallahu ta'ala an then asks in the Jama Masjid, he comes across Hassan al-Basri and he says, I'm going to take your interview, I'm going to take your exam and imtihan. Hassan al-Basri was so confident that he says, yes, go on, not a problem. He was so confident about his own understanding of the deen that he achieved from the Sahaba. So he asks him, Ma milakud deen, that what is the root of all success in our deen? What is the most important part of it? And Hassan al-Basri answers, Al-Wara', it is parsai, it is piety and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says, what is the destruction of this matter? And Hassan al-Basri then answers, At-Tama', it is greed, or rather having your gaze on others besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab, whenever Qari Tayyib Sahab, Hazrat Maulana Ali Miah Sahab, when they used to come, most definitely he would speak on this topic, Washabin Nas ala Sharitatain, that if you have to accompany people, then let it be with two prerequisites. Qat uttama anin nas wa amma fi aidin nas, that abandoning hopes from people and the possessions of people, but together with that, a very important another ingredient was was added there also, because it is greatly possible that some type of khushki and dryness that may come into a person, that, oh listen, I'm independent, I don't have my gaze on people's pockets or their things, so I can treat whoever I want in whichever way, and due to which you would start then expressing abhorrent character and ill-treating people. So the second part of it reads, وَحُسْنُ الْخُلْقِ مَعَ كُلِّ أَحَدٍ. But remember, when you adopt that, you don't have your gaze on the possessions of people, but remember, together with that, you have to treat people in the best manner. In fact, Maulana Ali Miah and them, when they reached back home, they even wrote letters saying that, Hazrat, where did you get this from? From which kitab it was? Allahu Akbar. Allah Ta'ala give us the understanding of deen. Hazrat Wala is saying, on one occasion, I went to Kanpur and it was the jor of the old workers. And Maulana Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sahab was there, and I sat in his bayan and I was listening, and what he had to mention is that the older a mountain becomes, the more beneficial it turns out to be. It will give you more priceless gifts, that same mountain. And the older the ocean is, or the deeper that it is, the older it is, the deeper it runs, it will give you much more precious gems and pearls. It will prove to be more beneficial. And then he went on to say, after emphasizing and driving that point, that you people are Purana, you people are the old workers, so you have to also prove to be more beneficial to the people. Take your gaze off the food of people. Allahu Akbar. In Allama Kashaf writes that how do we stand, sit and deal with people? Kayfa nubashiru, how will we do this? Wamata, and when? And wabiman, and with who? So we have to learn the style and the etiquette of everything. I went on the occasion of Dastar Bandi and the Bukhari Sharif Khatam, and at that time Maulana Ghulam Mohammad Sahab, he was there, and then he said that, listen, you have to come and run the Khanqa here. So I said to him that I stayed in the Khanqa, but I never ran a Khanqa. Initially, I denied and refused point blank, openly. And then afterwards, Hazrat Maulana Ghulam Mohammad said that look at this here, look at these people that are walking with you. They are the ulama of Gujarat, and this is their appeal, and they are begging you. It is only then that I accepted. I mean, they followed me. I went from place to place, place to place until we reached Bombay, and then this was their request to me. Nevertheless, Maulana Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sahab also speaks about a person who was banging the drums, due to which those monkeys were dancing. And then one person stood up and he said, let me go and tell him. So he goes there, and without any type of style or thought, he just blurts out to him, how can you do this? Don't you know the income is haram, or this or that? Rather, that person chased him away from there. Therefore, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahab used to also say that in this path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this path, in this tariq, when we're doing Islah and Tarbiyat, talattuf muta'ayyan hai. Talattuf is stipulated. There's no other way. Talattuf is there, and that's what you have to do. Talattuf, compassion, kindness. So nevertheless, Amar bil Ma'ruf, deen, and commanding people to do good is already better for a person to make amal on it. However, after that, when you present it and you are saying it with such type of harshness, you are putting two difficulties together. Where will the person ever accept it? And this year, this nukta, a Misri, Shami Alim, has made note of it. He has written about it in his kitab. So, Maulana Ubaidullah Balyawi. Nevertheless, then another person, I'm coming back to that point of the bayan of Maulana Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sahab in the Old Workers' Door in Kanpur. He says the next person went and he says, listen, tell me, how much do you earn by doing this here? And he said, I do this, and I get so much of money. And he said, listen, I've got the money with me. If I give it to you, won't you abandon this and try and go and look for something else which is much more better for you? Can you believe that ordinary simple person, he knew nothing. It appealed to him, he accepted it, he was so touched by it, rather he went into the Jamaat, he became a Jamaati, and he started learning about the deen which he knew not of before. Hazrat Wala says that I went to Nizamuddin, to the Markaz there, Maulana Ubaidullah Balyawi was there, and he was giving nasihat to those who were came back from Jamaat. And then he mentioned 2 points. He said, be punctual with your namaz ki pabandi. And the second point that he mentioned was, be clear, muamalat ki safai, in your transactions. There should be no discrepancies and everything should be above board. And listen, if you don't bring these 2 things into your life, then listen, you have went in Jamaat, but when you go back now, you'll make badnami for the Jamaat. Tabligh. I heard a lot, I sat a lot, and I'd heard a lot. You also make dua for me, Hazrat Wala, addressing the attendees of this majlis. Make dua for me that I bring it into practice. So we need to learn the tariqah of how to read Salat. Nevertheless, I said these few things to you as an introduction. I have this kitab in front of me, and then it says here in this particular kitab, what is the meaning of Tawheed? Tawheed मतलब इधर उधर देखने वाला वासिल नहीं होता. The one who's looking this way and that way, he never ever reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He never ever reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because his gaze is here and is there. He's not focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Maulana Zafar Ahmad Sahab has written in the Hashya there at the bottom, Jis ko sheikh par i'timad na ho, the person who does not have confidence in his sheikh, idhar udhar mara pirta hai, he's running from pillar to post. कि शायद यहाँ से मकसूद मिल जाए या वहाँ से. I don't know if I'll get my objective here or I'll get it there. So then what will happen to such a person? वो कभी वासिल नहीं होता है. He will never ever reach his destination. He will never reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu Akbar. So wahidullah, proclaim the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep your gaze on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you will reach your destination. It was regarding some buzrug and he went for nasihat. When he went for nasihat, what advice was he given? He was given this advice. What was that advice? Either udhar dekhne wala wasil nahi hota hai. The one who's looking this way and that way will never reach his destination. He'll never reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he went, and after 6 long months he comes back for the next nasihat, saying that I managed to come on this completely. This is how the Buzurgan-e-Deen mashq karate the. They would teach their disciples and bring into them these type of sifat. Hazrat Maulana Shah Fadlur Rahman Ganj Muradabadi, listen to his waqia and incident. There was a person who went to his friend's house. It was the time of iftari and he said, come, it's iftari time, now join me, we'll break fast together. And then he started crying. The friend summed it up, he understood what's happening, and he said, okay, what could the worst have been that you must have left the fold of Islam? Nevertheless, eat with me. He eats with him. Nevertheless, the friend then advises his friend and says to him that tomorrow, first thing in the morning, why don't you go to Shah Fadlur Rahman Ganj Muradabadi? And he asks his friend, and what did he turn out to be? He was reading some books of ghair, due to which some type of doubt came into his heart, that he then fell out and had doubts of Islam, came out of the fold of Islam. And this is the malfuz that we're reading here, that shak karne wala kamyab nahi hota. The one who is in doubt is never ever successful. Jisko apne andar nuksan na malum hota, okay, right, let's continue. So when he goes the next morning to Hazrat Shah Fadlur Rahman Ganj Muradabadi and he sees this person walking from the distance, already that basirat that Allah Ta'ala had given these saintly people, he understood already that this person had left the fold. He jumps over that half wall in the stoop and the veranda there, and he rushes to this person, striking him on his chest once, twice, thrice, striking him on the chest. And he's asking him and telling him that, what doubt do you have now of Islam? Tell me, what doubt do you have now of Islam? Tell me, what doubt do you have of Islam? And he says, I have no doubt whatsoever. The same person goes on to say, it felt at that time when he was striking me on my chest as if he was pushing back that iman that I had lost back into my heart. Allahu Akbar. We learn from this also that we should just not read any people's kitabs and literature. We should most definitely be careful about that. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. O people of Iman, save yourselves and your family from the fire of Jahannam. So the difficulty that comes from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is from the side. The difficulty that comes to you, it is from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Understand it to be from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Haji Imdadullah was in the Haram of Makkah and absolutely destitute in poverty. His colleague, Maulvi Rahmatullah, says to him, Haji, that why don't I go and take you to meet the Sultan? He says, not a problem, but if I go there to meet him and he may just say to me, if he becomes impressed, that why don't you stay over here at the palace, then I would not want to give preference to the Baytul Sultan over Baytullah. Nevertheless, Hazrat Wala is trying to emphasize here, Harche as dost mi rasad ne cost. Everything that comes from the side of the friend is good and only good in it. Outwardly, it may seem to be a calamity. Now, it may seem to be a calamity. So that was Hazrat Haji Sahib and the condition that he was in. So the Arif Kishan, the Arif is very, very paband on himself. He's very, very paband. Whenever he wants to talk, जब बात करना चाहता है तो मुंह से निकलने से पहले सोच लेता है. Before he can even let loose those words from his mouth, he thinks. अगर उसमें कुछ भलाई होती कह देता है, वरना ज़बान को बंद ही रखता है. If there's some good in it, then he'll say it. If not, he rather he keeps his mouth closed. जो अल्लाह को पहचान लेगा, अल्लाह के साथ उसका अदब बढ़ जाएगा. The person who recognizes Allah, then his respect for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually increases. And the person who's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be much more. Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib used to always tell us about these two salient features, qualities, points that are necessary for a salik. One is tawakkul and the other one is tawazu. Tawakkul, if you have tawakkul, your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your connection and your, a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be corrected. And the person who has tawazu, then his relationship with fellow people will become correct. Hazrat Wala is saying, I went to Nanota and I sat on the chair there and I didn't know what to talk about. I looked at the gathering there and I said, what will I speak about? I thought about this malfuz of Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Sahib, Alahbadi, about these two qualities of tawakkul and tawazu. When I quoted that, and then I said to myself, this is Nanotwa. This is the place where the great saint Hazrat Maulana Qasim Sahib Nanotwi came from. And then I started telling them about how and Hazrat Nanotwi had these qualities in him. What was his tawakkul in Allah and what was his tawazu with the people. Allahu Akbar. When I went to Dabel, I spoke about the Sirat Salaf. I said to the people there, Kitabullah, Sunnat Rasul and Sirat Salaf. Sirat Salaf. And I said to them that don't speak about your own Sirat. Speak about the Sirat of the pious predecessors. So the Arif thinks before he speaks. If it's good, he'll say it. If not, he'll remain silent. Why? Because مَا يَلْفِظُ مِنْ قَوْلٍ إِلَّا لَدَيْهِ رَقِيبٌ عَتِيدٌ. He does not say anything except that they are angels ready there, stern, ready to note it down. You know, a person makes mourning in such a manner that the organs of the body say to the tongue that, listen, if you stay straight, we'll be okay. But if you go out of line and say this and that and the other, we'll get beaten up for that. Allahu Akbar. जो अल्लाह से मोहब्बत करता है वो अपने नफ्स को तवाज़ु सिखलाता है. So a person who loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he teaches his nafs to be humble. And dunya ke ta'alluqat, meaning zaida, Maulana Zafar Ahmad adds that there, दुनिया के ताल्लुकात ज़ाइदा को अपने से अलग कर देता है. So the person who loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he'll teach his nafs tawazu, and the extra ta'allukat and connections here in the dunya, he will abandon that and cut himself off from that. और हर हालत में अल्लाह को हर चीज़ पर तरजीह देता है. And in every condition, at every point, he will give preference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he will be in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. उसी की याद में लगा रहता है और अल्लाह के सिवा किसी चीज़ की ख्वाहिश अपने दिल में नहीं छोड़ता है. And he will be always in the thought of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he will not have the desire for anything in his heart other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On one occasion, somebody asked Hazrat Haji Saheb that, Hazrat, why don't you stretch out your legs? Then he said that गुलाम के लिए ज़ेबा नहीं कि आका के सामने अपने पाँव फैला दे. Is this suitable for a slave that he stretches his legs in front of the Aka and the Master, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allahu Akbar. On one occasion, somebody asked Hazrat Khaja Naqshband, Hazrat, where's your khadim? And then he said, जो खुद खादिम है, जो खुद गुलाम है, उसका खादिम कहा? The person who is the slave himself, where will he have an assistant? Allahu Akbar. So आथार abdiyat. So today you want to say something, all the more you should be silent and not say it, because there is so much of entertaining of badgumani, entertaining wrong thoughts, negative thoughts of the next person, that a person should really fear before he speaks. Because somebody will take out what from that you don't even know. So Hazrat Tanvi said to Maulana Zafar Ahmad Saheb that make the tarjuma of this kitab here, the Arabic kitab, and then it was translated into the Urdu, Al-Bunyanul Mushayyad, just like how Hazrat Haji Saheb told Hazrat Tanvi to translate that kitab, that people will benefit. And when I went to the Madaris, I said to the Talaba also that you must have such a type of capability and capacity that you are able to convey the message in the next language, the desired language of your people. Okay, now what are the signs of abdiyat and humility? Abdiyat का हक है कि आका के सिवा सबसे पूरी तरह यकसू हो जाए. That other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you come away from everyone and it is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdiyat ye hai कि हर छोटी बड़ी चीज को छोड़ दे. Abdiyat is this, that you abandon everything that is an obstacle between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. अब्दियत ये है कि हर किस्म की बड़ाई और बुजुर्गी की तलब से इरादा को रोक ले. That you prevent yourself from everything, this buzrugi and barai, that you are so great and this and that. Any such traces and signs, you stop that completely. Abdiyat, this total and complete humility, what is it all about? That a person doesn't understand himself to be superior to his colleagues. That a person, that mitti and sand that he was created from, he remains on that same level of the sand. He doesn't understand himself to be any superior, more superior than dust. Abdiyat khawf और khashiyat का नाम है. Abdiyat is the name of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah ta'ala Allah ta'ala की तकदीरों के सामने आजिज बन जाने का. And in front of the taqdeer and the decision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a person makes himself helpless. Okay, let's continue. So abandon this useless talks. Har salik ke liye, it is necessary for the salik, for every one of you here, that you have khalwat your time of solitude. And I say this to every person, that at least read one tasbih of Kalima Tayyiba. There, the promise of Jannah is for reciting Kalima Tayyiba once. If you are reading one full tasbih every single day, what will your darja be? Allahu Akbar. Uthman radiallahu ta'ala an seemed to be very, very grieved. Nevertheless, Umar radiallahu ta'ala an passes by him, makes the salam, and no answer comes. So he goes to Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala an, and he says, I don't know what's it, but I made salam to Uthman and he did not answer. He left it just still there. He did not go and say, now he's thinking he's too great, or this or that. You know, badgumani, entertaining the bad thought of the next person. And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala, and look at his purity of soul. He says, no, there must be something. Let me go and ask him. He goes then, he asks Uthman radiallahu ta'ala, due to which Uthman radiallahu ta'ala then answers and says, something is troubling me, and more than that, it is the point that I didn't ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about the answer to this problem of mine, meaning that he was troubled by that of wasawis. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala says, don't worry, I asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about it already. It is that very same kalima that he presented to his uncle Abu Talib, who denied it. The kalima tayyiba, la ilaha illallah. You know, in the old days they used to give this example. It is written in the kitabs also that if you see a person walking with that bottle, then you should tell yourself, make husna zan, and tell yourself that it's not liquor in there, rather it is vinegar. And then Hazrat Wala says, but in this day and age, maybe you can even say there's Pepsi in there. Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, O Nabi of Allah, how is it if I have a beautiful outfit and some nice sandals to wear? So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look at the balance that he strikes. He said there is no problem so long as you do not understand your fellow sisters to be inferior, so long as you do not look down upon them. Look at the Ali and the high teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He didn't say to her, you can't wear that clothes, you can't wear beautiful and pretty clothes. He didn't say that to her. You know, we had to write our halat to Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb, and that was so difficult. And people started giving, he was taking an imtihan, and then I wrote there that Hazrat, since we are Adami, then we must remain Adami. Meaning we are from Adam, we are Adami, and Adam alayhi salatu wassalam was from sand and dust, so then we must just remain like that. That's the long and short of what you want from us, meaning always adopting tawazu. Hazrat became so happy, what can I tell you people? So we need to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma a'tini imanan la yartaddu. Oh Allah, bless us with such iman, after which there is no irtidad and apostasy. So shouldn't we be in fear? Shouldn't we make this dua to Allah for us? Shouldn't we teach it to our children? Shouldn't we make it on behalf of our children? What to do? بَلْ تُؤْثِرُونَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. You are giving preference to the life of this world. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرُ وَأَبْقَى. Whereas the akhirat is better and everlasting. Let's read that couplets in the praise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam again. Muhammadun basharun la kal bashari bal huwa yaqutun bain al hajari. When he read this here, he was informed that his maghfirat and everybody else's maghfirat was made, due to which he made it his habit after that day. Muhammadun basharun la kal bashari bal huwa yaqutun bain al hajari. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم بحرمة سيد النبي الكريم صلى الله عليه وسلم.